I'm John Raphael from the National Alliance for Direct Support Professionals, and I'm coming to you with lots of anxiety and lots of thoughts. We are currently in a pandemic, as you obviously well know. The National Alliance for Direct Support Professionals, our mission is to make sure that direct support professionals, in this nation in North America, are given the knowledge, the skills, and the values that they need to do the profession that they provide for millions of people with disabilities. Currently, many of us are either self-quarantining, self-isolating. I'm doing it right now. I have the luxury, I suppose, to do that. Direct support professionals in the United States, especially, and in Canada too, don't have necessarily that luxury. They're essential to the lives of people with disabilities, quite literally. And that brings about lots of anxiety, lots of questions, and frankly, we do know that many direct support professionals are frightened. So what we decided to do at the National Alliance for Direct Support Professionals is, because that direct support professionals devote their lives to the lives of others, to make a world of difference in the lives of other people, we thought we'd just give the direct support professionals a little gift, I suppose. And this webinar is devoted to you, direct support professionals, healthcare workers, healthcare professionals, anybody that is putting putting their well-being on the line, putting their family's well-being on the line, so that they can go do the direct support profession that they have taken the call to do. So the following webinar is meant to give you some ideas about how to take care of yourself in this very difficult time. We care about you, and this is something we can do right now, what little we can do right now, to maybe offer you a little bit of hope and a little bit of peace and some sanity in a very difficult time. So please listen in.
There's a lot to be said today when it comes to self-care. There's bookstores, or well, used to be bookstores, right? Bookstores have whole sections on self-care. And what is self-care? Well, I'll tell you right now, for direct support professionals, there's an old saying, the mechanic's car is the last to get fixed. Well, we know direct support professionals are often the last people to take care of themselves. They're dedicated, they're passionate, they're tireless when it comes to supporting people with disabilities, and in so doing, sometimes they don't think about their own well-being. And that's what this webinar is about, especially right now in this time of the coronavirus, COVID-19 crisis, and these very anxious and anxiety-provoking and challenging crisis times that we're facing as as a planet. For direct support professionals, we wanted to offer just a few ideas to help you get through your days maybe a little bit easier, and that's what this webinar is about. So what we're going to offer you are some, just again, ideas that are they're not my ideas. They're ideas based on research and based on psychology and medicine and all types of I guess suggestions for you to use to take care of yourself in this tough time. So let's get to it. First thing, exercise. We can't discount the importance of exercise, physiologically, psychologically, spiritually, mentally. Exercise does incredible things. Now, depending on your physical capacities and what you're able to do, whether it's walking or running or biking, or if you use adaptive equipment, maybe you use a wheelchair. It doesn't matter. Exercise and moving your body is critical to your overall well-being. Um, for purposes today, I'm thinking that exercise can be something that can not only give you an opportunity just to get away from your life for a half hour or whatever it might be, but what the benefits of exercise can do for you physically and emotionally. That's what this is about. We do know that when you do different types of cardiovascular types of exercise, um, get your heart rate up, your oxygen starts to flow, your endorphins get pumping, and overall you can reduce anxiety, reduce depression levels, get more energy. There's nothing bad about exercise. Of course, you want to always get approval from a physician or your medical doctor before you start any kind of exercise program. Um, but the reality is we do know the benefits of exercise far outweigh um, not exercising. So get off the couch, get away from the Netflix, and at the very least go for a walk or a ride or something. Uh, so exercise, that's one suggestion for you to take care of yourself. This is an interesting suggestion right here. Human touch, animal touch. We're talking about affection and hugs. Where this is not sexual in its nature. What we do know, and again, this is based on science. I'm not going to recite all the scientific references. That's not what this webinar is about. But we do know that human touch it can be a very powerful source of. It can give us serenity. It can give us a sense of peace. It can give us a sense of security, especially in these very difficult times when it comes to human touch. It's contraindicated. We're not supposed to be touching. We're not even supposed to be shaking people's hands. We're supposed to be socially distancing, right? We're supposed to do elbow bumps, and that's very important. Please continue to do that. But when we're in the confines of who we are with our family, as long as we know they're not contagious or we know we're not contagious, there are benefits to human touch. And again, we've got to be careful. You probably, at this point in time, I think we're all a little paranoid about uh, the physical contact with another human being. But we do know, and science does tell us that the benefits of intimacy are very powerful. Now, let's go to our fuzzy friends, animals, cats, dogs, whatever your preference is in terms of pets, if you have a pet. Again, we do know the benefits of hanging out with your pet, your dog, your cat, your hamster, whatever it might be. Um, there's value and there's scientific evidence that shows our blood pressure can be reduced. Again, anxiety and depression can be, at the very least, if not mitigated, can be it can get better. Look at the last 10 to 15 years in terms of the service animal industry, uh, particularly service dogs. There's many service dogs that their whole purpose is to help people with reduction in anxiety, with coping with sensory issues. There's power in the physical presence and the physical touch of another sentient being. So be careful with human touch, of course, especially in times of contagion. But the reality is, we do know if you have a trusted source that you can cuddle with and hug, it can be very powerful. This is so important. I think all of us are in a situation where we feel kind of out of control, sometimes even surreal. I know I'm afraid. I get very frustrated. I get angry. I'm not talking about just, with, political leadership and all that stuff. Not knowing what to do from one day to the next in a time like we're in can be very frustrating, and it can get you very angry. You have permission to get frustrated, to be afraid, and to get angry. You don't have permission to ill affect anybody because of your anger or your frustration or your fear. But what you do have permission is to feel it. Um, for an example, probably every other day we're getting new directives as to what we can do, what we can't do in terms of exposure control, right? Are masks okay? Aren't masks okay? I mean, all of those kinds of mixed types of messages we're getting from uh, from our regulators, even from the federal government, that can be very frustrating. It can make us angry, and that's okay. What I'm saying is that you have permission to be angry. However, you have a further obligation and a responsibility. Once you're over your anger and you don't, put it upon anybody else, talk to your supervisors, talk to your agency administrators. If it's to the point where you're feeling so angry, you just feel you can't function. Um, the reality is we have policies and guidelines, and we have our code of ethics, obviously. But in situations like this, when we have something that's come at us from seemingly out of nowhere, it can be very scary, and you have permission to be scared. But you also have the obligation to find out how to best deal with what's making you angry. Okay. The opposite of this, it's okay to feel okay. Um, there's something called survivor's guilt. If you might have heard of it. And with survivor's guilt, it's one of those things where maybe the people around you have gotten sick, or have something tragic has happened, and you're okay. Nothing bad has happened to you. Um, in these times when, excuse me, there are people that we're supporting as direct support professionals who might be falling ill, to whether it's the coronavirus or whether it's whatever that might be taking place, and you're feeling okay. It's okay to feel okay physically. It's okay to feel okay emotionally. Um, sometimes in huge in situations when there's crisis, um, there there's sometimes humor that comes out. It's called gallows humor. Maybe you've heard of it, where you're kind of almost, hopefully you don't ever want to joke at somebody's expense, but sometimes things make you laugh that might be seemingly inappropriate. Be careful. We don't want to offend or insult or hurt anybody with our humor, but sometimes we have to be, and sometimes comedy is some of the best medicine in the world. But when I say it's okay to feel okay, what that means is that in even these difficult times, we have to have moments when there's peace, when the phrase, this too shall pass, kind of echoes in our heart and in our mind. And that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. We need to have those moments of peace and clarity. And it's okay to feel okay. Routine. One element that we can control in our lives is our personal routine. And whatever that means to you, that means to you. I can't determine what your routine would be. Maybe you're an overnight staff direct support professional. You work overnights, and you get up at maybe you go to bed at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You get up at 9 p.m. and 10 o'clock is your coffee and get prepared for work time, and you go to work at 11. I don't know, but my point, and the point of a routine, thinking about even the people that we support, how routine is so important to many people that have disabilities, particularly people that experience and have autism. Um, Routine is a very important thing to have because it does give a sense of control in sometimes in a situation or a life that might feel out of control. For what we're talking about right now, and the purpose of routine being an element where it can help you for self-care, knowing and knowing what's going to happen in the next 8 hours can be a very uh, I think a very calming thing. um, and I think when you determine what a routine is for you, it can help you get a sense of control at the very least over what you can do in a day. All right, so routine is very important. This is, I think, one of, in my opinion, the most important out of what I'm going to suggest that can help you kind of fill your well. uh, Maybe you're a religious person, a faithful person, a spiritual person. Maybe you practice a particular faith, and that's wonderful. But you don't have to necessarily be a person of faith, a person that is religious or spiritual. You could be an atheist or an agnostic, and that's great. But the point of what this particular uh, suggestion is about, to do something meaningful to you, to your spirit, to your psyche, your soul. To do something meaningful every day is very important, particularly in times of crisis. And whatever those things might be, if you have a journal, if you have a diary, writing, and in fact, actual writing, it's called, that's now the latest thing is slow writing, and which is literally taking a pen or a pencil and writing, handwriting on paper. There's apparently neurological and psychological benefits to actually writing with a pen or a pencil on paper, as opposed to the world that we're in, which is texting and typing. Um, eh, so get a journal, get a diary, write on some post-it notes, whatever it might be, but write your thoughts down, your fears, your maybe a poem, maybe a song. Writing and journaling is very important. Religion, and that, we could this, we know, for many people it gives hope, it gives peace, it gives a sense of belonging. It creates a place for people, whatever the religion is, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, uh, Buddhism, the list goes on. Whatever your religion is, to practice it on a daily basis is very important in difficult times. And for those of you that do practice whatever you practice, you probably know that. Yoga. Yoga has become more and more popular, certainly in the Western world, but yoga's been around a long time. And yoga is not only good for the body, but it's good for the soul, it's good for the mind. It's very good for helping with getting a sense of peace, getting a sense of clarity, and that's all physiological as well as psychological when it comes to yoga. I'm not a yoga instructor, nor do I do yoga, but I know many people that do, and they benefit greatly from yoga. Baths, you might have a bathtub. Maybe you're not a bath person. Maybe you don't have a bathtub. But time that we take for self-care when it comes to bathing. Maybe you take a shower with the lights off and a candle on and some incense burning. But maybe you spend a little extra time, brushing your hair, or, doing your personal hygiene. But certainly, absolutely, if you're a person that has a bathtub and you're lucky to have a bathtub, maybe do a couple baths a week, as opposed to maybe once or twice a week that you might take a bath. Baths can be very soothing and can be very relaxing. And put some Mr. Bubble in there. Well, I'm showing you my age. Mr. Bubble, when I was a kid, that was what got me in the bath, because I like the bubbles. Maybe you don't like bubbles. Do a salt bath. I don't care. Baths are great, for relaxation, for alleviation of anxiety and depression. Nature. I don't care if you live in an urban area, if you're in the middle of a major city. Every city's got a park. There's something to be said when you go hang out with trees and with plants and with squirrels and birds. That brings us back to what we all come back to eventually, which is nature. And you don't have to be a park ranger, but it's, I think, a very important thing that you can do on a daily basis, just to spend 10 minutes breathing in some as fresh air as you can get, and go hang out with some trees. I'm lucky I live in the mountains and I get to do that a lot. Music to me is probably one of the most important things that I have to experience every day, whether it's listening to it, playing it, whatever it is for you. If you're a person that gets benefit from hearing and or playing music, do it every day. That can do a wonder a wonder on your soul. A good song that sparks some kind of inspiration is better than any medicine you can take. I believe that personally. And lastly, there, the list that we have for you, meditation, and that doesn't have to be formal. Meditation can take the form of closing your eyes and just, daydreaming, just focusing and taking a minute in the middle of a busy day, and taking 5 minutes and just close your eyes, sit down, and listen to your breath. Feel your heartbeat. Meditation has been studied by scientists for years, and there are benefits to actual formalized meditation. Maybe take a meditation class. There's different forms of meditation. That doesn't have to be religious either. It can be simply a discipline that you learn to help you gain clarity in your mind, and to kind of what I understand meditation to do. It basically cleans out your mind, and it kind of washes all the junk away so that you can be renewed and think again clearly. Very important. This is one of those things at this point in time in our history we got to be careful with, especially with contagious diseases. But I'm talking about something different. I'm talking about emotional connection. So connecting with others beyond the people you support, beyond your coworkers. I'm talking about your family, your friends. Um, and connecting doesn't have to be necessarily physical, but it does have to be emotional. It has to be personal. Our good friend, Dr. Al Condalucci, and Al, if you're listening, I hope you are. I love you, man. Uh, but he talks a lot about, and has traveled the world discussing something called social capital. And social capital is something not only that we need to help the people that we support foster and gain. What social capital is about is the connections in your lives, the connections with other people, your friends, your family. And at this time in a crisis situation, when we connect with others in a meaningful way, when we can be vulnerable, when we can be honest, when we can just let our hair down, when we can yell and scream and know that that other person's not going to judge us, or when we can cry. There's power in that that's beyond words. And so connecting with others, especially in times of crisis, becomes critical. It's interesting in Italy. There's been many stories coming from Italy, and that poor country was hit very hard with this epidemic of the coronavirus and COVID-19. There's so many stories about how even in isolation, even as there's been mandated isolation and people needing to stay inside, people are still there thriving when they connect. They'll go to their balcony in their apartment building and they'll begin to sing. Other people will come out and begin to sing with them. There's something about the human connection that's healing, that we need, and that you should really look for. But be careful when you're looking for connection physically, because as I said in that other slide, we do have to be careful with being precautionary about spreading or obviously getting any kind of bad virus. Sleep. Oh, sleep. Oh, you know what? We have to steal sleep away sometimes, don't we? Especially if you have children. Many people listening to this webinar are direct support professionals with 2, 3 jobs, maybe, and children. You might be a single person raising your children. Sleep becomes this special thing that you try to get as much as you can. We do know, science does tell us, without sufficient and a very specific amounts of sleep, we can't regenerate. Our immune system begins to dysfunction. We get grumpy. We lose our productivity. So in any way, shape, or form, if you can improve as much as you can in obtaining more sleep, it's going to be very helpful for you. Perhaps you have a condition. Maybe there is an insomnia condition that you might have that maybe you need to seek medical attention to get assistance with that, and that's fine. But the reality is we do know And science tells us that the more we sleep and the better we sleep, the better we're going to be for it. And it's important also not to necessarily rely on artificial means to get us to sleep, whether it's sleeping pills, whether it's, booze before we go to bed, something like that. That's ultimately not healthy. That doesn't help us with our sleep cycle. And again, I'm not a medical professional, but the reality is, um, sleep as much as you can. Finally, please, please, if you feel you're at the end of your rope, if you feel you can't cope anymore, if it's getting to the point where you might even you're feeling depressed, you're feeling so anxious you can't function, suicidal ideation, feeling suicidal, there's nothing to be ashamed of, nothing to be ashamed of. But please seek professional assistance. There's no shame in that. And as a social worker, I'll tell you this: um, professional assistance and counseling does not have to be, you don't have to go to therapy for 10 years. Sometimes it might take just talking with somebody a few times who is a fair witness, who is a neutral source, who is a professional counselor. That can help you in many, many ways. Your organization hopefully has an employee assistance program. If not, you should seek uh, advice from your supervisor or a human resources professional in your organization. But the reality is there's tremendous amounts of availability of mental health assistance and counseling assistance all over North America. And if you reach out, you'll likely be able to find it. But I would recommend going to your human resources professionals in your organization if you do have them. But do never ever, uh, never ever feel any shame in seeking out a professional uh, counselor in times when you feel you can't take it anymore. Lastly, you're not alone. We at the National Alliance for Direct Support Professionals, and there we are up on the screen, we are here for you. Our mission is to make sure that you, as direct support professionals in North America, have the knowledge, the skills, and the values to do what it is that you do so well. You are truly some of the most important people right now doing the most important work that we can imagine. Between you, the nurses, the healthcare professionals, the physicians, our first responders, our emergency personnel, firefighters, police officers, right now you are among those ranks. And we are here as an organization, the five of us, we're here to support you. And that's what this webinar was meant to do, meant to give you just a few ideas to help you hopefully have a better week, a better month, and a better few months ahead. So on behalf of Joe, Dan, Desiree, and Nicole, um, my name is John Raphael, and I want to let you know you are the most invaluable people in the world right now for the people that you support. And the millions of people that are dependent on the work of a direct support professional, trust me, we are going to use this crisis as an opportunity when all of this is over and when all of this kind of fades a little bit. The world is going to know how valuable you are. And our work is going to be even more spirited to make sure that you're given more recognition, more certification opportunities, more remuneration, and ultimately more respect in this world because you deserve it. So thank you all for what you do. Please be safe. Please keep yourselves healthy as you can. Do some of the stuff that we've suggested on this webinar. Do not hesitate to reach out to me personally, J. Raphael at nadsp.org, and I will get back to you. I wish you all health and I wish you all ease and peace in this very difficult time. Thank you for listening and watching.